Hey everyone, I hope you have been well. So what we're going to do here is just cover the remainder of Chapter 8 that we did not get to finish. And so we're going to talk about some of the social development pieces that we did not finish yet. So for a lot of us, if you have a friend and have a new baby, the first thing you're going to ask is what is their gender? So do you have a boy or do you have a girl? We've got some definitions here of what gender is to psychologists. So identity is the way that we feel about our gender, role are the expectations that we're supposed to fulfill. And this comes from a lot of places. So our knowledge of gender can come from society, such as our parents or our peers. Our parents can tell us or model what appropriate behavior is. We learn what a man should do, what a woman should do from watching our parents, as well as our peers, which will police our adherence to gender roles. So if you are a male and you go into your third grade classroom with painted fingernails, they may say, "Why are you wearing painted fingernails? Are you a girl?" And so you think, oh, this is for females, not for males. So this is kind of almost a policing that we'll see. There are cognitive aspects to how we learn our gender as well. So one of these is our gender schema theory. So with this one, we have an idea of, or we decide if an object, activity, or behavior is for males or if it's for females. And then we decide if we want to learn more about it. So if we decide that welding is for boys and we are girls, then we're not really going to interact with welding. We're not going to learn more about welding. So even though we may be an excellent welder, we're just never going to give ourselves that opportunity because we believe that it's for boys only. So we first make that decision, then we decide whether to interact. There are biological influences for gender, though. It's not all social or cognitive. So evolutionary theory suggests that we have adaptive preferences. So men would adapt to be more aggressive and want to hunt and protect the family, whereas women would have this adaptation to caregiving and may play with dolls. We get some other evidence for this biological influence through individuals born with CAH. And so these individuals are female, they're genetically female, but they have this testosterone in the womb. And so with this we have a preference for masculine activities. So even though they're biologically female, they prefer activities and toys that men would typically play with. We think it's because of having that higher level of testosterone in the womb. So we'll move into some purpose of families. And so for some of this, you can just, read. So we know parents are not all powerful, but parents do have a big role to play. So our parenting styles from Baumerind, he said that parents can be plotted on 2 dimensions. So how accepting/responsive they are, and then how many demands they place on the kid. It's not bad to place demands on the kid. So typically we think somebody placing demands on us is, oh, that's bad, that's rough. But really it's a good thing. We want our parents to have some kind of demand. You have to take a shower, you have to brush your teeth, you have to go to school. We want some kind of demands from our parents. So we can think about this if we had a parent who was asked, can their 13-year-old go to a Miley Cyrus concert? So we're going to get a lot of different responses from parents. Some will say yes, absolutely. Others will say no. We get parents who say you can go, but I have to go with you, or you can't go because it's against our family's values, or whatever it is. You get a wide range. And so Baumerind would say we could take this kind of range and plot it against these dimensions. So what we end up with is a parent who is rejecting and unresponsive. So this is not what psychologists would prefer. So people who are rejecting and unresponsive could be authoritarian or neglectful. They're authoritarian if they're also really demanding. So this kind of do what I say, not what I do, just I told you so, I'm the parent, you're the child, you just do it. That is authoritarian. Neglectful parents we often don't see really interacting with the kid at all. They place very few demands and they also just reject the kid. When we come to accepting and responsive parents, those who are undemanding and uncontrolling, we call these permissive parents. And these are more like your best friend. So, we're buddies, we're pals. I love you, I want to be with you, but I don't place a lot of demands on you. And then finally, we get this category called authoritative. This is what psychologists believe is the sweet spot. So you're accepting to the kid, I love you, you're great, I'm glad you're here on this earth, but you also have demands on them. You have to do your homework, you have to brush your teeth. So culture in SES, though, culture does play a role. So authoritative parenting, we think, does have the most benefits, but there are differences across cultures. So with people who are From an Asian background, often are more authoritarian. So this idea of do what I say, I'm the parent, you're the child. We also see authoritarian parents with individuals who are of lower SES or socioeconomic status, which can be protective. So you don't have maybe if you're living of a lower socioeconomic strata, you might not have the time and resources to be like, oh, I love you so much, kid. This is why, and let me tell you all the great things. Instead, you have to kind of be divisive or decisive. Don't go to that place. I said, no, it's dangerous. So it's a decisive factor. I'm the adult, you're the kid, you'll listen to me. And this can be protective in many situations. We know parents exhibit different behaviors, so they'll directly instruct or coach. We also get kids who will model their parents' behavior. So if you've ever found yourself doing something and you're like, oh, I look just like my dad doing that, or oh, my mom used to do that all the time, that's modeling. And then we can have reinforcement and punishment. So directly giving the kid a treat or punishing a behavior we don't like. We can see is sometimes people getting stuck in a negative reinforcement trap. And so with this one, it's often mothers and sons, but the mom will make a demand. So she'll be like, son, clean your room. The son will whine and say, I don't want to clean my room. I don't love that. You always make me do everything. And then the mother will say, fine, I'll do it myself. And so what that teaches the son or the child, and typically it's mothers and sons, but it could be anybody, what that teaches that person is that whining works. So if I whine and complain, then I don't have to do the task I was asked to do. And so then whining and complaining looks pretty great. For siblings, you can kind of read through this one. Birth order, though, is really difficult research. So with this one, because families can be so convoluted, so you can have two parents who are married, they have 3 children, then they get divorced, they have 2 more. Is that fourth child the one is that a firstborn because it came out of the marriage, or is it a younger kid because it came longer in line from the other kids? It can be a really convoluted web, and so birth order research is really difficult, but we do think there are some conclusions that can be drawn. So you can read through that one. You can also read through the divorce and remarriage. We do think this can lead to poor adjustment, but it's a lot of it is based on other factors. So divorce is not uniformly bad. If there's a lot of conflict before the divorce, kids often report being happier post-divorce. It also depends on how much the parents will cooperate with each other. And then many families will remarry. This can be difficult, especially for adolescents, especially if you have somebody trying to walk in and fulfill that father or mother role, and they already have one, and they don't accept that person as an authority figure. So it can be difficult. There are challenges, but it's best when both adults are caring about the children. So our changing family in a changing society, so gay and lesbian parents, most children that they raise will identify as heterosexual. There are really very few differences overall between families raised by heterosexual and homosexual parents. There really are very few differences. Working parents, most mothers are in the workforce now, can have some benefits for children, so those children often engage in less gender stereotyping. Which brings us into child maltreatment. And so with this one, you can read through the types. So neglect, we don't have enough food, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse. The important things for this one are some of these who abuses and then the effects of that abuse. So when cultures have a higher acceptance of physical punishment, sometimes physical punishment can go too far, and this can lead into child abuse. Parents who, we call this back against the wall parenting, so they're already maybe under poverty, it's stressful, they're socially isolated. With this, it feels like their back is up against the wall and they're just lashing out. It's a lot of stress. So we can see those parents sometimes abuse. Most parents do not have a child and say, I'm going to abuse this child. I can't wait till they're born on the earth so that I can abuse them. Most parents do not think that way. Instead, it's more of these things like dysfunction or not knowing how to break the cycle or having unrealistic expectations of children. So if you expect your 2-year-old to completely clean up after themselves with every single activity that they do, and you're going to punish them if they don't, that's an unrealistic expectation. 2-year-olds are not capable of completely putting away everything to an adult's standards. And so we have to modify our expectations there. The effects of abuse can be many, so it can be trouble in school, substance abuse, but the biggest thing is that these effects can be lifelong and intergenerational. So these effects can move between generations and they can last a long time. So we want to prevent child abuse. We can encourage resilience, but a big thing we can do too is be someone's SSNR. So this is a something the CDC says is a great thing. It's a safe, stable, and nurturing relationship. So an adult who's in that child's life, who's not abusive, and who protects that child to the best of their ability, who is a positive influence. This could be a teacher, another adult, an aunt, grandma, whoever it is, but somebody who helps that child to deal with that difficult situation. And so that will end the material there for our physical development chapter in chapter 8. I'll see you again for chapter 9.